Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dead Mall Walking. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana to visit a special mall that's very close to my heart. One that's days may be numbered, making that signage at the beginning of this video eerily prescient. Today, we're talking about the fascinating Circle Centre Mall. So, let's literally and figuratively start at the top. At the end of April, Hendrix Commercial Properties LLC, who are responsible for the city's very cool Bottleworks development, completed a deal to acquire Circle Centre Mall. Already $85 million in the hole, they'll be spending another $600 million over the next decade to gut the mall and build a, shocked Pikachu face, mixed-use open-air development that will include retail, residential and office areas. In the meantime, we can presumably expect to see Circle Centre continue to decline. This video was taken in September of 2023, and although it was already struggling then, I gather things are only getting worse there. At the end of March, for example, the mall saw a scuffle lead to a mass shooting that left 7 children and teenagers with gunshot wounds. As you'll be able to see throughout the video, the place wasn't exactly looking its best. And there were already tons of empty units when I visited last year, including one with an incredible aesthetic that I'll save for a little later on in the video. The history of Circle Centre is a strange one, more than 2 decades in the making before it finally opened back in 1995. There's a great post on indiestar.com that you can access through the Wayback Machine, I'll link it in the description below, that describes how the cost of the mall ballooned from a proposed $100 million to a total spend of more than $300 million. The city of Indianapolis was forced to finance $287 million in city bonds to help Simon through financial troubles, ultimately paying for more than half the mall's building costs, and it now owns the land under the building. I swear, this story is begging for a movie with the Aaron Sorkin or Adam McKay treatment. And you can say what you want about this place, but it really does have some beautiful features. The purpose of Circle Centre Mall was to revitalise a downtown retail sector that had been struggling throughout the 60s and 70s. A lack of restaurants and attractions meant that Indy's downtown was sleepy and deserted, doing nothing to help dispel the city known as Naptown's reputation. Although, fun fact, that moniker is actually a nickname based on the Nap in Indianapolis that dates back to the Jazz Age. Nothing to do with it being boring. By 1980, a feasibility study had been completed suggesting that a downtown covered mall connecting 2 department stores, LS Ayres and William H. Block Company, could be built for $100 million. As I mentioned earlier, that figure turned out to be a little conservative. Plans for the mall were scaled back from an enormous 3 million square feet, which would have made it the second largest mall in the United States, to just under 750,000 square feet of leasable space. For context, that would have been about half the size of Forest Fair Mall back when it was open. It blows my mind to think that this place could have potentially been 4 times bigger than it actually is today. I'd probably still be there filming it if it was. But let's take a break from the history lesson as we roll into the food court. Some corners of it have the weird feeling of a hospital canteen, but it's a solid mall food court, including staples like A&W, child upscale restaurants like P.F. Chang's, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and Harry and Izzy's, a sister restaurant of the renowned St. Elmo Steakhouse. I was, however, sad to see that Cinnabon is Cinnagone. And yes, I've been sitting on that pun for longer than I'm proud of. After getting myself turned around at this unceremonious door that required a hotel keycard, I found myself in a sky bridge that connects the mall to the Omni Hotel. Let's be real, if my hotel isn't connected to a mall, then I don't want it. Oof, look at that liminal space. The The mall is connected to the Indiana Convention Center, Lucas Oil Stadium, 11 other hotels, and the Arts Garden by the covered Skywalk network, which must be nice for those cold, wet winters. So I can't figure out for the life of me why, despite its central location, this place is dying. I was in town for several days, including a Colts game day, and I never really encountered anyone in here. Despite being almost 60% occupied, it's a ghost town. And I still don't know why. What was this mystery indeed? But I do have a working theory. Indianapolis is also home to Castleton Square and the Fashion Mall at Keystone, both of which are Simon Property Group malls. The same group that played a key role in the development of Circle Centre, but since seems to have turned its attention elsewhere. The former of these malls is the largest in Indiana, while the latter is often described as luxury, upscale, and glitzy, terms you probably wouldn't use about Circle Centre. Both of these malls have more than 120 stores, double that of Circle Centre, and you don't need to fight your way through city centre traffic or pay extortionate parking rates. Which begs the question, why would you come here instead? I've seen a lot of Reddit comments praising Circle Centre for revitalising downtown, with folks saying that in the 90s you would come here just to visit the mall. But those days are over, as they are for most American malls. True destination status is increasingly rare for indoor shopping centres these days, with the possible exceptions of the Mall of America or West Edmonton Mall. Another thing I noticed about Circle Centre is that it seems to have entrance after entrance after entrance. And oh, go on then, one more entrance for the road. As a result, and particularly during poor weather, the mall feels very much like a shortcut to get around town. And that's a bad thing, because it means that it's often full, although I use that term loosely, of people racing through on their way somewhere else. If you are there for some leisurely shopping, you can end up feeling rushed and out of place. With that said, I really do like it in here. On a sunny day, the light streams in through the skylights, glinting off the coloured glass installations that are scattered around. I've seen the shape of the mall described as a dumbbell, and it makes it easy to walk back and forth along each floor of the mall. Parts of it remind me a lot of Tri-County Mall. May it rest in peace. I've already touched on a couple of the strange quirks surrounding the development of Circle Centre, but let's get to the biggest one right now, because it's a doozy. The eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that the centre in this mall is spelt the way we do here in the UK, and also in much of Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Obviously, that brings a sentimental tear to this Brit's eye, but I've never managed to find out the reason for it. All of the architects and developers appear to be of American origin, so for now, it's a mystery. I did email the mall's general contact address about it, but it bounced back. If anyone out there knows or has any ideas, please share them with us in the comments. We're up on the top floor now, which is home to an arcade, a Regal Cinemas, and a ton of empty liminal space, like this corridor overlooking the food court. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it once housed a satellite campus from Brown Mackie College. Now, it's just a creepy and kinda dirty corridor that leads to a literal back room that I was desperate to explore. But I resisted the temptation because I still had plenty more filming to do and didn't want to risk getting kicked out. Here are some of those beautiful glass installations I was talking about earlier. The failure of Circle Centre isn't for want of trying. When the mall was unable to attract a new anchor store to replace the vacated Nordstrom, partially due to stiff competition from the fashion mall at Keystone, they reached an agreement with the Indianapolis Star to move their newspaper offices into the old Nordstrom space. And they remain there to this day. The mall has also leased space to Brown Mackie College and the Simon Youth Academy, an initiative by the Simon Property Group. I was surprised to run into this couple up here taking selfies, because the view really wasn't all that special. Maybe they're just mall fans like I am. And honestly, it's hard not to be a fan of this place. I come here every time I'm in Indianapolis, a city I have a huge soft spot for, and I can't imagine it not being here the next time I get out there. Unfortunately, it's looking more and more like that might be the case. On a lighter note, trying to figure out how this person threw this bag in a way that meant it landed here is my Roman Empire. I probably think about it much too often. As we head down to one of my favourite features in any mall ever, let's get back to our old friend Simon, who I mentioned just a minute ago. Despite managing the mall for a number of years, Simon sold their 15% ownership stake in the mall at the end of 2021, handing over the reins to JLL. Although an Indianapolis Business Journal commenter, Mike G, says that, quote, Simon wasn't really managing it for the last 3 years if you want to know the truth. Judging from its size, and a net income of more than $2 billion in 2023, it's safe to say their future is more secure than Circle Centre's. All of which brings us back to the present day, in which these little fountain frogs are officially an endangered species. If, or perhaps when, the mall closes, I'll be relying on one of you Indianapolis-based viewers to help me secure one for my home office. If you want to see this mall, the best time to do so is, well, probably 20 years ago. But the second best time is now, because I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be around for, and it's rapidly emptying out. In many ways, it was a huge white elephant, and has been a total failure. At one point, the cost of building the mall was projected to hit a staggering $1 billion. On the other hand, it was a legitimate factor in the revitalization of Indianapolis's downtown. There are those who would argue that it's difficult to put a price on something like that. And beyond all that, well, just look at it. Whatever state it might be in today, there's no denying that this mall has some beautiful architectural touches, especially the Arts Garden, and that still comes through today. Then, at the other end of the scale, it's absolute heaven for dead mall fans like myself. You can walk the halls here pretty much undisturbed, except for the occasional cologne salesman, and I have to say the stuff he was selling actually smelled pretty good. And enough major chains are still hanging on here, like Lids and Bath & Body Works, that you can actually do some shopping if you want to. There's plenty of clearance sales to take advantage of, and probably more of those to come. Desks, post-apocalyptic Claire's accessories, creepy liminal spaces galore, and perhaps my favourite of all, an empty unit I mentioned earlier, which has a few remnants of the Global Village coffee house aesthetic. Completely emptied out save for a spotlight shining down on absolutely nothing. Which is sadly a pretty fitting metaphor for the state of this mall right now. As I round out this video, I'll be showcasing a few other fantastic spots in and around Circle Centre that didn't quite fit anywhere else in the video. Like an extremely weird TJ Maxx that now sits in the ground floor of the former William H. Block Co. department store, some great old former restaurants, and a few other quirky sights I encountered on my visits. And as I do all that, I'd like to thank you all for checking out this video, as well as Wave Collector for providing some of the background music. I hope you've enjoyed checking out this mall as much as I've enjoyed spending time in it over the years. If this turns out to be the last time I ever see it, consider this to be my love letter to Circle Centre Mall and the beautiful city of Indianapolis. If you're able to get here and check this place out before it declines further than it already has, I highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. It really does help out. As always, my Instagram and some ways to support the channel are linked below. Until next time, and perhaps for the last time, goodbye from Circle Centre.